The government's move to restrict subsidized fuels is the first step in its bid to alleviate the burden of subsidies on the state budget. But it comes with a trade-off and a responsibility to make sure it does not have too negative and impact people's lives as well as in the business sector, especially with regards to transportation.
The government's decision to restrict the sale of subsidized fuel at certain distribution outlets has continued to prove controversial. Although aimed at lowering the subsidies burden on the state budget, the restriction also applies to public transport, and this may hit the sector hard. The government aims to put a 46 million kilolitre cap on subsidized fuel consumption for the year. It has restricted the availability of subsidized diesel and even stopped sales altogether at some filling stations. Industry Minister MS Hidayat estimates that restrictions on the sales of subsidized fuel will lead to higher transportation costs and would thus also affect productivity. He says the restrictions should only be applied to private and not commercial or public transport vehicles, which are crucial to economic activity.
Saya kira apa yang diatur itu dalam rangka menyikapi subsidi yang terbatas ya, sehingga bisa diatur sampai selesai budget untuk tahun depan. Saya kira kita ikuti aja itu, gitu. Tapi tentu keinginan dari saya pribadi sih, saya ikut pendapat Menko agar one day, nggak tahu kapan, secepatnya ada pengaturan mengenai mobil pribadi yang nggak perlu menggunakan lagi BBM subsidi.
Meanwhile, the Jakarta chapter of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, known as Kadin, estimates that restrictions on the sale of subsidized fuel, especially diesel in central Jakarta, will have an impact on the wider transportation sector. Sarman Simanjorang, Jakarta Kadin Deputy Chairman, says that in the long term the impact of the policy would swell logistics cost. Therefore, the business world was pressing the incoming government to study the impact of such restrictions very closely.
Jadi kalau sampai saat ini memang kami masih belum merasakan dampak-dampak langsung. Yang kami pikirkan adalah dampak-dampak ke depan yang perlu diantisipasi oleh pemerintah. Nah, untuk itu sangat kita harapkan pemerintah supaya mengadakan sosialisasi yang lebih komprehensif kepada seluruh elemen masyarakat, karena kita tahu juga masyarakat belum tahu ini. Terutama juga nanti masalah premium, pembatasan premium ini juga harus segera diambil langkah-langkah sosialisasi yang cepat supaya mereka tahu dan bisa mengantisipasi sedini mungkin, jangan sampai tadi ada pengaruh-pengaruh terhadap sektor ekonomi.
Kadin Jakarta does acknowledge that reducing fuel subsidies is the best move to take, as it will eventually free up 210 trillion rupiah per year for other uses, such as much-needed infrastructure projects. Those, in turn, would take major and lasting pressure off all logistical costs.